Hello, everyone, and welcome to session one of TNPA Career Day 2024. My name is Shelby Truxon, and I'm the Director of Internship Experience here at the Nonprofit Alliance. I'm also in charge of our Leading Edge Student Internship Program. Right now, you are about to hear from four amazing nonprofit professionals about their career journeys and the causes that they work for, including Keesha Ceran, who is the Associate Director at Teaching for Change, who will also speak on careers in equity and social justice. We also have Nina Stein, Investment Analyst at the Nature Conservancy, who will speak on careers in climate change and environmental sustainability. We also have David Mallory, Director of Annual Giving and Community Engagement at Whitman-Walker Foundation, and he will speak on careers in mental health and wellness. And then we also have Erika Debrick Kelly. She is the Chief Government and External Affairs Officer at Meals on Wheels America. And she will speak on careers in economic stability, addressing issues like poverty and hunger. So feel free to also read their bios in the chat if you are here live with us, or you can visit our website at tnpa.org/TNPA Nonprofit Career Day. So let's jump in with a little more from our speakers about their organizations and what they all do.
Teaching for Change, we are a pre-K through 12 education nonprofit, and we are located in Washington, D.C. We do place-based work in the D.C. metro area, and then we also do national work as well. And what our work is connected to is around the education justice space, and primarily looking at how do we empower and provide young people with the tools and resources, not only to read, write, but also to change the world. And so when we think about what's happening in the world, both globally, locally, and locally, really looking at how do we examine the experiences of power and human rights and making connections between history and what we are currently seeing. And so I'm excited that we are celebrating 35 years next year. So in 2024, the calendar year, we will be celebrating 35 years of doing this great work. And so it's just really exciting to be part of a community that continues to do that deep work that is so necessary and vital to not only, I think, young people's growth and mindset, but then also adults. Like, I continue to learn every day from the work that we facilitate at Teaching for Change. My role as associate director kind of serves also like a deputy director, if you will. And so managing a lot of our day-to-day operations as it comes to our staff, our HR process and policies, the support that we offer not only to full-time employees, but our contractors, anyone that we are serving and supporting in different ways, our interns, our fellows, our volunteers, so like all of the people management of the organization. And in addition to that work, I focus the most on like our operations. So what's the day-to-day experience of our staff? What are the systems that we use to operate the things that we do? And what are the ways and processes, policies, procedures that we have that's whether documented or not, and how we just engage in the everyday experience of what we do as workers, as people who serve the organization and serve the communities that we support. And so that's a broad sense of my work. A larger piece of that is also supporting our executive director in budgets and making sure that we are keeping track of our finances, managing our like grant reporting calendar and other structure like that. So some of the programmatic operational side of things. And then a third facet is thinking about the relationship that we have with our board of directors. And so many nonprofit organizations, actually, I think all nonprofit organizations legally are required to have a board of directors that helps to govern the everyday financial and business management of the organization. And so my role at this current time, and it's not that might not be the experience of every associate director, but my role serves as a staff liaison for the board of directors as well.
The Nature Conservancy is the largest environmental nonprofit in the world. We operate today in over 70 countries. I believe we're about at 79, and we have 1,000 scientists and scientific support on staff. Big organization, very science first. The mission of the organization is to protect the land and water on which all life depends. And in that way, we're stewards of the world. of Mother Nature, and all life that lives upon it. And our work spans kind of a lot of different things. There's a lot of programmatic work around, conserving the environment, restoration, and there's a lot of innovative financial work. And that is kind of the side of the organization that I sit on. The organization has about a $3 billion endowment, and my team works to manage that endowment. It looks much like a university endowment, so it's invested in all asset classes, but with sustainability at the forefront of everything that we do, which looks slightly different based off of where we're investing, whether that be public or private. And I focus specifically on our private sustainable investments. Being an investment analyst it can mean a little bit of everything. With a $3 billion endowment, there's a lot to do, whether that be operations or, managing an investment, making an investment. So it looks a little bit different depending on what we're thinking about, talking about, working on. But in a very general sense, being an investment analyst means helping with the diligence process for onboarding new investment managers. So we have about a $3 billion endowment, and we allocate that money to fund managers who make investments on our behalf. So both public and private managers. On the public side, that might be hedge fund managers, public equity managers, fixed income, and on the private side, that could be growth equity managers, venture managers, kind of all of that fun stuff. And so it looks like, making sure these managers are doing what they say they're doing, making sure they have good track records, making sure that they are consistent with the mission of our organization, all the way up to making the investment and then managing it after the fact, making sure that after we've given them our money, they're doing what they said that they would do, that we like the investments. If we have questions, going to them and asking about them, all of that fun stuff. So managing relationships, and then on the operations side, it might be managing subscriptions, the operational due diligence process, background checks, all of that fun stuff.
Whitman-Walker is a community health center based in Washington, D.C. We've got multiple locations across the city, and we serve about 20,000 patients annually. Our goal is to provide affirming and stigma-free care to anyone who comes to us. We pride ourselves on never turning anyone away, regardless of their ability to pay. And part of our role in the city is also to improve health outcomes and also to reduce barriers and access to care and quality of care in what have traditionally been underserved communities. We provide the whole range of services that you might expect from a health center, including, of course, primary care, dental care, health and wellness programs, free HIV and STI testing, and community health education, legal team to assist our clients, as well as a public benefits team that helps folks negotiate the insurance that's required, and to pharmacies on site at 2 of our locations that are open to the community. But we also, of course, as a health center, have a really vibrant behavioral health team, which provides psychiatry, psychotherapy, gender affirming assessments for clients who may be transitioning, youth programs, as well as substance use treatment. In 2023, Whitman-Walker actually celebrated 50 years of service in the community. And we closed out our year by opening our new Max Robinson Center, which is our largest expansion of services and facilities in our entire history, where we hope to see about 10,000 more patients by 2025. And for folks who aren't familiar with Whitman-Walker, of course, we were at the forefront in the battle against AIDS, and we became known for that. And we are still known for our specialties in HIV care and LGBTQ+ healthcare. As you'd mentioned, I am with the foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of all of Whitman-Walker. Basically, we are the folks out there doing the fundraising. We raise about $5 million a year to support the various programs, most notably for the clinic itself and our patient care. As Director of Annual Giving, I'm tasked with our direct response program, so fundraising by mail and digital and what other means we can think of. But I also do a lot of corporate engagement and seek out community partnerships, corporate partnerships, and sponsorships to support our work. A lot of that in the past year was focused on the opening of our new facility. But I also do a lot of that work with planned giving, with monthly donors, volunteer engagement as well. When folks come to us and want to do like a group activity, so it's a whole I don't want to say mishmash, but it's a kind of a mishmash. We're a small team, which is what I love about nonprofit work, is that you get your hands into just about everything possible. So that's basically what the scope of my role.
But yeah, let me tell you a little bit about Meals on Wheels America. We are a national leadership organization that is dedicated to supporting the nationwide network of senior nutrition programs across the country. So there are about 5,000 of them that are working each and every day to help older adults remain healthier and independent in their homes. And we're really fighting those issues of hunger and isolation all across the country. So we really work at the national organization to support those local organizations through education and training, networking, research, raising awareness, and a lot of my role in terms of advocacy support. And so, together we're really just trying to make sure that there's no senior in America that is struggling with hunger or isolation. So we really work at this national organization. So there are those Meals on Wheels programs, senior nutrition programs all across the country. And I have the privilege to build relationships with members of Congress and congressional offices, folks within the federal agencies, and a lot of other national coalitions and organizations to really advance public policy and legislation that supports those local community-based organizations and the older adults that they serve. So my work, I really help lead our department, our advocacy and government relations, government affairs department, and we work across the organization. So I mentioned earlier, things like research. Well, we need research to be able to make the case for things like increased federal funding or showcasing, the challenges that older adults are facing, and how government, and whether that be at the federal, state, or local level, can really be a part of the solutions to meeting those needs. So it's such important work, and I mostly focus, and my team mostly focuses on the federal level. So we work each and every single year, and right now we're looking ahead to 2024, and what does that advocacy agenda look like? How are we going to spend our time? Where can we have the biggest impact? Have the voice that's most critical, and where can we really advance change? So I can go into more detail if you're interested, but it's really looking at that agenda and what are the ways in which we can advance real change, again, for older adults and for Meals on Wheels programs and in volunteers too. We also contribute and work on important tax policies. And so how can we encourage charitable donations? How can we help support volunteers with mileage deductions, for example? So think about delivering meals, and we really are powered by a national network of volunteers that help support the delivery directly, knocking on that door, checking in, making sure that older adult is okay. And we couldn't do that work without volunteer support, whether, again, that's like delivering those meals directly or help in a kitchen, help in a senior center, welcoming folks, to the building and talking about the different kinds of programming that's available. So that's a little bit about kind of my role and what it looks like on a daily basis. Wow, you guys, it's so great to see all the different roles that are available in the nonprofit sector. And while that's great, some of you might be wondering how to apply your talent or skills to issues like world hunger or climate change. So let's see what our speakers said about their roles and how they tie into the bigger mission of your organizations as it relates to the issues or causes that they address.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big piece of the work that I am learning to appreciate, and in the nonprofit space is that, right? Like we do this active community engagement around equity and social justice. And I think a big core piece of the tenet of what does it look like for my role, especially the people that we're responsible for, like there's been a lot of conversations about the human in human resources. And so I think a big piece of that concept of equity comes up in like compensation and what are the ways that we are compensating our staff. And small nonprofits, we operate nimbly, we operate a little bit more frugal and ethically minded when it comes to our finances. And that's rightly so. Waves may come and go, and we want to be mindful that we can't always offer, six-figure salary compensation when we know that we don't know how long a program or project might have the financial support or stewardship or et cetera, right? And so I think a big part of what I continue to look at as a leader in my organization is also, we are an equity-minded, anti-racist organization in the work that we do. And while we are in the education space, our work is both around curriculum. So when we think about what are the stories, the narratives, the experience that young people are seeing in their classroom content, does it reflect the stories of collective movement and engagement? Does it reflect the stories? For example, one of our big projects is around teaching Central America. And so when we think about a migratory history of Central America, is that reflective in the curriculum that we see today? Is there an academic heritage for a lot of community and their own experiences that is reflected in the curriculum when we talk about certain content? And so I think a big piece for me that I'm also keeping in mind is that while our output of work is around equity and anti-racism, how are we also maintaining that skill set learning and cultivation within our team as well? And so I do focus a lot on that as it comes to like professional development opportunities, the conversations that we have in our all staff, how we are talking about or caring for our people in terms of well-being when we see global moments that are happening, like the conflict in Gaza and Israel. And so just really thinking about those pieces as it comes to our work, so we're not missing that. And so I think that's a big important piece of just like my attention in this role. I don't know if it's necessarily the experience that you might see across the board from associate directors or deputy directors in that regard, but it is something that I continue to keep in mind, that we are lucky to be this type of organization that does the work. And so I don't want us to take that for granted when it comes to the who's doing the work, and that we're also continuing to cultivate that own learning sense of self and support, that we are promoting and engaging in community outwardly, that we are also doing that internally as well.
As I said, the Nature Conservancy is this massive organization doing tons of conservation projects and programmatic work. The endowment is 5.75% of the spending rate of the organization, meaning that we literally fund these projects and make sure these projects are able to happen. I think that is a big way that we really clearly kind of tie into the organization. But another way is, as I was saying, we have made a number of climate investments, both on the fund side and then the direct investment side. So on the fund side, investing in climate venture managers or private equity managers who dedicate all of their capital to innovative climate technologies. And as we grew that part of the portfolio, we started seeing deal flow from what we believe to be some of the best climate companies in the world. And we decided it made a lot of sense for the Nature Conservancy to double down and give our dollars directly to those companies. And so we've been building up that program for the past 2 years, where we invest, somewhere between $500,000 and $2 million into climate companies that are doing really innovative work. And so that's actually where I focus the majority of my time, researching and helping to make investments in those climate companies. They do a little bit of everything, but the main goal in investing in these companies is complementing the work that the Nature Conservancy does on the programmatic side. So as an organization, the Nature Conservancy really focuses on nature-based solutions. And we think with the endowment's dollars, we can invest in mechanical solutions that kind of complement those nature-based solutions. So where TNC plants a tree, the Nature Conservancy's endowment is, investing a few dollars into direct air capture, or something kind of along those lines.
Our primary goal is to raise funds for the programs that are provided by the health center. And often that is for our behavioral health team. So, a lot of that will be grant writing to support their programs and their efforts. It may be something to support the gender affirming care we provide through the behavioral health team, just to get more specific. But what I think is really wonderful is that the impact I have. I'm certainly not a clinician. I'm not a provider. I'm not a psychiatrist. But knowing that the work that we do helps them in their work and helps better outcomes and health for our patients. So there's always I think no matter what role you serve in the nonprofit, it all supports the end mission, which for us is better health outcomes, whether it's behavioral health or not. So that's basically how we support our behavioral health team. One of the things I love about my role is also being able to tell the story, is to tell the story about our patients, to have them tell their stories that resonate with the broader community. And that's true, of course, with our behavioral health clients who have been, several are great spokespeople for the organization. But I love conveying that and telling their stories about how Whitman-Walker has, in some cases, saved their lives, but certainly improved their lives.
So one of the biggest ways in which we are directly connected to the mission, and I think in every aspect and for much of it, but also Meals on Wheels programs, senior nutrition programs that I talked about, most of them are delivering meals in a place like a group setting, like it's called a senior center or a congregate dining site, as well as directly to folks who may have limited mobility and are in the home and can't get out or cook and safely prepare meals for themselves. So that's the types of services that we provide as a network. And most directly with my role in advocacy and federal relations, government affairs, most of those programs across the country rely in part on federal funding to meet their mission and to meet the needs in their communities. So we are most directly tied to helping, make that case, raise awareness about the number of older adults who are struggling with hunger or isolation. In many cases, there are actually waiting lists for services. So older adults, on average, are waiting about 90 days in order to get Meals on Wheels or ability to eat in a group setting like a senior center. And so our work most directly ties, I think, to try and increase those resources to meet the need in those local communities. There are about 12,000 older adults who are turning 60 every single day. So the need not only is growing in terms of the demographic changes across the country, but also what we have seen as a result in recent years of growth in senior hunger, or the economic circumstances where folks, once an older adult falls into poverty, it's very difficult for them to come out of that kind of a situation. And so programs like Meals on Wheels are the lifeline. It enables them to make sure they're getting that nourishing meal. It keeps them healthier in their homes, out of a hospital, saving money in terms of Medicare or Medicaid costs. And so we're really able to extend their network of support, their financial resources, and being able, by having a healthy, nutritious meal, additional funding that might be able to support payment for
rent or medications and all what it requires, to remain healthier in one's home. So that's a little bit. I could probably go on a lot longer, but there's a direct tie into the work that we're advocating for and trying to advance that really supports both those local programs, nonprofits in communities across the country, as well as the individuals in which we're touching and trying to improve their health and quality of life.
So insightful and inspiring to see all the amazing work that's being done out there. But it also made me wonder how our speakers got to where they are now. Did they always know they wanted a career in the nonprofit space? Were they always passionate about these causes? Or did they take a more unconventional career path? Let's take a look and see what they have to say.
So my story is that I'm a political science major, like as my education. I have my associate's degree. So shout out to any community college students that I'm a proud graduate of a community college in California. My undergraduate degree and my master's are all political science. And I kept that very general. So I wasn't in a particular like niche, like I wasn't a master's of education policy or anything like that. I just really wanted to understand, what does governance look like, and how does that like interact with community and other spaces. And so it's interesting because I came to school in Washington, D.C., and many people who come to school in Washington, D.C. who seek degrees like mine have this dream to work on the Hill, to be a politician, to do all these things. And that was never mine. And I really just wanted to learn politics for the sake of me learning and having that knowledge. Now, there are some skills that are directly applicable to the work that I do. When we think about some grounding or foundational pieces of the political science background, some of it is in like understanding community demographic, community makeup, thinking like organizational development, if you will. So like, what are the relationships with people and communities, the decisions that they make? We talk about voting behavior in politics, all of those pieces. And so that type of analysis, I think, is very much applicable to the workspace that I do in nonprofit experience. And there's opportunities to see some transferable skills, if you will, as well. A curiosity for me was that I had always been curious, if someone does choose to go the route of higher education and to pursue a 4-year degree, what does that path look like? So I'd always been curious about this pre-K through 12 experience, and recognizing that it looks different depending on where you are, and so many other factors. And so the pandemic itself, the racial rebellion, it caused a lot of uprooting for me, that I really wanted to think about how I give my time, and to see some direct like impact and change. But I really focused on like, again, like what was I passionate about? And so some of these themes helped me then to decide the type of organizations I wanted to look at, seeing their mission statements, their vision, the type of work that they were doing, for how long they were doing it. I also had a great network that, when I was ready to begin my search, started sending me things, many positions that I disqualified myself from. But one of them was Teaching for Change that I got sent, and I'm here now. So I joined in January of 2021, and almost 3 years in, and I am enjoying every moment of working with this organization and seeing just the deep, wide impact that we do every day.
Great question. It's funny. No, I had no idea that I wanted to work in the nonprofit space, but I had actually worked at a nonprofit prior to the Nature Conservancy. And the nonprofit that I worked at was focused on financial inclusion. And I had always really cared about climate, and as a result, like the environmental injustice that we've seen throughout the years of the climate changing. And a lot of that work, especially as I was kind of going through school and looking at jobs, a lot of that work was really in the nonprofit space, which pushed me more and more towards working for a nonprofit. When I was in school, I started a few clubs related to climate change and sustainability encouraging people to find, students specifically, to find the power to act on this and push the university, push their friends to care about this issue and take action on this issue. And yeah, I think all my interests really stemmed from a passion in being part of the solution to this changing climate,
Yeah.
and helping people find ways to adapt to a new world. And so it really stemmed from an interest in climate than it did in working for a nonprofit. But I've worked at 2 nonprofits and I love nonprofits. They are amazing organizations. It's hard work, but you wake up every day knowing exactly why you go to work. And I think that is really powerful. Absolutely. I think I had no idea it was an option. And I went to business school. And when I was in business school, you know, my school had a great career services group that was focused on business and like single bottom line business, like just make a profit. And that was never what I wanted to do. And so, you know, kind of paving my own path and going down the nonprofit route, and this being a interesting kind of crossover of business and nonprofit, right? Because it's an endowment and it's very financially motivated, but also very climate motivated. And that was just, you know, such an interesting journey. I'm so happy that I ended up where I am today.
You know, nonprofit work was never really in my sights. It wasn't something I'd ever actually considered. And after school, I basically just, you know, went into the corporate environment, where I was for about 12 years or so. And it was, you know, lovely environments, lovely colleagues, but it was what I was doing after hours and like my volunteer work that was more fulfilling to me. And at the time, it was theater. Theater's my biggest passion, and I was a stage manager for 7 years in local DC theater. And I include that just to say, who knows, I may have ended up in a nonprofit theater. But I do mention it because the skills I gained there have really helped shape the work that I do now. But anyway, so the volunteer work after theater, I got more involved in local community, especially LGBT issues and community organizing. It was the height of the AIDS epidemic, and I felt like I really needed to be a part of that, and bring about change and improve the lives of folks affected by HIV/AIDS. So I actually started doing my own volunteering, especially in terms of fundraising. You know, like the peer-to-peer events. Like I participated in every year's AIDS walk. I did multi-day bike rides. I did a week-long bike ride in Alaska for AIDS efforts, things of that nature. And Whitman-Walker was the beneficiary of a lot of those events. And from there, I actually went to an event production company where I was a volunteer manager for a while, and then the director of the first national event, overnight event to raise awareness from suicide prevention. And I was like, wow, I can actually make a living doing this kind of work. And then this opportunity became available at Whitman-Walker, and it was to be the director of their AIDS walk. And I thought, I can't pass that up. And so it was the passion, it was the cause that really brought me there. And this is my 19th year at Whitman-Walker. I still do some work on the walk in terms of corporate engagement. But of course, my role has shifted many, many times over those years. But I don't regret any of it. And it's still a place and work and colleagues that I can't speak highly enough of, and that just give me such a good sense of satisfaction and like I'm actually making a difference.
Yeah, I think everyone's path and journey to this work is so interesting and important. I think my story probably just begins like a lot of us, where I just had an interest and commitment to service and helping people. And so I didn't know directly that I wanted to go into nonprofit work when I was in college or, high school, or even much like even early into my career. I didn't necessarily know that that's where my path was going to take me. But again, that that importance of service and helping my community has always been a part of me. I originally went to school to be a teacher and started off in education. And I just very much believe in that idea that small acts can really make a big difference and a big impact. And so I think, whether you're at a national organization like mine, where I'm able to really have an impact across the entire country in some of the work that we're doing, or volunteering and working in a local organization, all of those pieces working together changes lives. And I think that that's what I was really drawn to, and think I will continue no matter where I'll go. I really want to help people at the end of the day. And I think internships, are such an opportunity to be exposed to different ways of working, different missions. And so it was an internship in a congressional office that led me to Washington, D.C. To begin with. And just that opportunity to be exposed to so many different organizations across the country. So it was really formative. It really was, and not what I expected, but so proud. And working here for 13 years has been such a huge part of my heart and soul of who I am and how I wake up every day, with knowing that this work matters and is really helping people.
Well, it looks like we all agree that no one path fits everyone, but staying true to your interests and your unique abilities will always take you to where you need to be. And that's also one thing that's very unique about the nonprofit sector, is the ability to turn our passion for service into a career. So let's see what advice our speakers had for any of you who are passionate about certain causes, such as mental health or social justice, but not quite sure how to build that into your career journey.
A big piece of my own personal journey was also recognizing that I wanted to continue to cultivate an experience where I was learning. And that's the one piece that I would say, like, there's a lot of privilege, and I own this now. And I say this a lot in some of the circles that I've been running in. There's a lot of privilege to be able to jump into an organization, a role, or a path that is like meant for what you want to do. And I say that because, especially coming out of college, I don't know what people's backgrounds are when we talk about capitalism and like the need to live. That has a lot of impact in the choices that we may be able to make when it comes to the careers that we choose. And so I do recognize, again, that the nonprofit space might not always be the sexiest space, especially when you can be making that 6 figures and doing those things. But there is a privilege in choosing to still serve in the way that you would like to serve, regardless of what those financial costs may be, right? Though the ecosystem is really wide when it comes to nonprofit space. How you interact in that ecosystem may be really wide. There's questions about what's the direct service organization versus like a supportive organization or other pieces. And so it's what type of level or level of engagement in the community ecosystem do you want to be in? So like, if your heart and passion is for I'm trying to do something low level, but like houselessness and like feeding people and ensuring that people aren't going hungry, and poverty elimination. There's so many different organizations and entities and experiences that you connect in, right? You can think about policy. What kind of policies do local governments have when it comes to housing support and infrastructure? Or you could be working with a direct service organization that is in the streets, right, serving these communities on a daily basis. And so it really just depends on like what your entry point is. I'd probably say a good place to start is, where do you volunteer? Where do you give your time on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis? Because the reality is there are jobs there. So I think having those factors of like, what's the type of work environment that you desire? What do you want and hope for your colleagues? I'm a lifelong learner. I love like to read and nerd out. And so the fact that I get to be part of an organization that is so directly tied to history and lessons, and I get to sit and listen to historians and scholars. We do this online class once a month, and I get to sit with teachers who are learning just as I'm learning, right? And so I think that's a piece, is like what gets cultivated in the experience is also what might drive how you select the places that you want to work.
You know, maybe unlike us today, there are so many jobs available for somebody who's interested in working in climate or sustainability. It is a lifelong career for all of us. I think we are watching the climate change very rapidly. And being a part of the solution is really powerful. I think that you will find a job and it will get you out of bed every morning. Um, you know, I think I also kind of always thought that working in climate change might make me really sad or pessimistic about what is happening, and it's quite the opposite. Working in this industry, you see how many people care so deeply, how many dollars are really going towards the solution, how many solutions are out there. Um, you know, keep doing it. You will find a job. And maybe the Nature Conservancy is the right role for you. So maybe the last thing I would say is look on the Nature Conservancy's career site and see if your next role might be there.
I would say become involved in your local community. If there's a cause that you're passionate about, that may lead you to an organization that you're passionate about. I would say volunteer if your time permits. Get a sense of what the environment is like at that organization. Get a sense of what the colleagues there are like. I would also say, do some investigatory interviews. I know folks I work with, especially the providers and especially these folks in behavioral health. I know they love to talk about what their path was, what their work is like, um, and things of that nature. So see if you can build a relationship that way to find out more about the organization or about the cause you're interested in. And we've touched on this so many times. I would say sounds corny, but follow your heart. And see where it leads you. I mean, nonprofit work may not be feasible for everybody, but it just brings me such a sense of fulfillment. Um, I think that's what I would say mostly. Maybe attend events of that organization, like a walk or a gala or whatever it might be, just to get to know the local community as well, because you'll meet like the community of supporters and donors and learn more about why that organization or that cause is so important to them. And again, going back to our conversation, I would say, even if you're not interested in going to school to become a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, is also realizing, that everything that is a part of that organization, again, like whether it's fundraising, whether you're a great writer and you want to write grants for behavioral health programs or things of that nature, the nonprofits engage, I think, so many different talents and skills, and you still, if the organization is open and communicative, I think that they'll always let you know how you play the role you play, like in improving the health of community and the outcomes for patients and things of that nature. So
Well, such great questions and important ones. And I think I really, if you do have a passion for um, a topic, a problem that you're looking to solve, again, around service, we need you. This sector needs your support, and you have such an ability to make a difference. And what do I mean by that? I think this is also a sector that welcomes in, innovation, new ways of doing things. I think that's a real interest. What I would recommend, or some nuggets of advice and things that I've learned from my own path, was what I mentioned earlier around internships and exposure into different organizations, the people you meet along the way. I think it's so important to stay in touch with them, to maintain those relationships, and just be open to the possibilities of what is out there. I think too, I would encourage, if there is an organization that you really admire, that you're looking to learn more about, I would encourage you to inquire, to reach out, to find, to let them know that you would be interested in a career or, an opportunity there to make a difference. That's actually how I ended up at Meals on Wheels America. There was not a job opening. I was looking for work. I thought about my areas of interest. I could have taken a lot of different paths here in Washington, D.C. and following my time on Capitol Hill, but I followed this work. I was really interested in helping older adults, groups that I think are often may not be top of mind, or older adults who are living behind closed doors may be a little, forgotten or isolated. And I had my own personal connections with my grandparents. They're my favorite people. And I can't help but see in every single person that we're delivering meals to my own connection and my own family, and knowing that. So I reached out to the organization. I said, here's my resume. I would love you to keep this, keep me in mind should anything pop up. And that would just be advice that I think is kind of unique or rare. So don't be limited to only, what you see on a website. Let people know that you're interested, because this sector does want we want people who are service-minded, who are passionate, because it helps us be even better at our jobs. And so I would just encourage folks to keep that in the back of their mind, and you can make a career out of nonprofit work. And it is such a privilege. Again, this has been a privilege of a lifetime to be able to do this work on a daily basis.
Well, I don't know about you all, but I'm feeling truly inspired about using my work to help others. So thank you all for joining us today, and a special thank you to our speakers. They were so amazing. Also, thank you to our sponsors and our steering committee for making all of this possible. Thanks all, and stay tuned for more program announcements.